Welcome in, everybody, to the Crowded Booth here on a Monday night, Week 14 reaction. I hit the wrong button. That's okay. We're talking college football here on the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
Welcome in, everybody. My name is Bryce Koon, alongside Will Manis and Ralph Leary. And Will, I hope you enjoyed your close-up there to begin the show. I hit the wrong button, and it is what it is. But, fellas, we haven't talked in a while. First off, let's start it off. Happy belated Thanksgiving. So tell me what was the best thing on your plate, Will. You go first.
Well, we didn't eat turkey. We had barbecue. So the answer is Brunswick stew.
Ooh, homemade Brunswick stew.
No, castleberries.
I've never had that before.
Yeah, that's gonna be a Huntsville thing.
No, it's a Columbus thing.
Castleberries?
Castleberries. Well, I mean, you can get it anywhere.
And when you say Castleberries, is that a restaurant or are you talking about like a brand?
It's a brand.
Oh,
Canned Brunswick stew, Castleberries. If you know Piggly Wiggly, you know Castleberries.
I got a Piggly Wiggly right next to my house. I wonder if they've got it there.
I'm shocked, Bryce, that you don't know what Castleberries is. We know, Ralph. He's from a little higher society than me and you. So that
we've all
understand that.
We've all
well, it's there. You go. Apparently, no. So Castleberry. Okay, I'm not joking. I have a Piggly Wiggly literally less than 5 minutes from the house. I might go there tomorrow to see if they got it. It's canned. Now, am I talking about like Hormel chili? Like, is it like freaking me out like that type of thing? Or
I'll show you. I'll
show you up right now.
I'll show you a picture of the can so you know what you're getting at.
I've never seen this before. I got it right here.
Shout out Yasso Bars, by the way. Had a Yasso ice cream sandwich right before the show started.
Well, I can't pull that one up.
Oh, we got it on Amazon.
Yeah, on Amazon.
Aunt Kitty's food.
Now, Will, this makes me nervous.
Why does it make you nervous?
Canned Brunswick stew.
It's so good.
Okay.
Well, I really hope you're not showing your address.
Look,
in here.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not showing your address in here, are you?
I hope not.
Am I?
I hope not. Everyone send everything you want to Will's apartment.
Oh, it just says Columbus. Everybody knows where I'm at.
Yeah.
That's no person. I would. So.
Does it have barbecue in it?
Not really. But now, so I must admit, like real Brunswick stew, like Country's barbecue Brunswick stew, top notch.
Country's barbecue, terrible barbecue, great Brunswick stew.
So it's not that I'm a canned Brunswick stew only, but this is canned Brunswick stew. It's really good and really easy.
All right, it's Goldfella says tough to have your best Thanksgiving food come out of a can. Massive. Ugh.
Man, I didn't eat turkey.
Well, I don't eat turkey, so you know.
My family decided to go for flavor this year.
Well, I'm going to stop right there because I was going to say something. All right, so George P. Burdell says Georgia Tech beat the Brunswick stew out of Georgia the whole game. It's a shame we lost. I don't know but maybe
like. Is George P. Burdell a city councilman from Brunswick, Georgia?
Might be. Tech should tackle the refs as well as they played for Georgia. Really getting me jazzed to see the best underdog story of all time be crushed. Did y'all have spam too? Jonesy asked. We're going to talk Tech Georgia here in just a second. Ralph.
Yeah, we're going to talk Tech Georgia here in a second.
We are.
I already see it down there.
Well, this is what I want to know. For people listening that maybe don't get to see like our reactions, you need to come over to the YouTube channel and watch live or watch right after the fact, right? The contrast of what you're about to hear from a canned Brunswick stew to whatever Ralph's about to tell you is shout out Ralph Leary II. No, I mean like yours is about to be so good compared to the idea of canned Brunswick stew.
Yeah, well, we all know Ralph Leary II is a chef.
Well, it's also two different tax brackets. Let's just be honest with that too. So, no, in all seriousness, Ralph, what was the best item? Because Ralph told me that there was a new creation from Mr. Leary on the menu?
We've always been we always do a baked turkey and a fried turkey every year.
Mhm.
We did not do a baked turkey this year. That was always my grandmother's thing. So my dad wanted to do something different. So he did a smoked turkey. Never done it before. Yeah, dude. It was actually really good. Turkey's always dry usually year in, year out. His
It's a
fried
dry
turkey
bird to begin with, though.
right. His fried turkey is always good. It really is. I always tell people right out of the fryer, it's really good. This smoked turkey though was amazing. It was probably one of the best things that we've ever had. That obviously was new for us. And then my mom's dressing. It's just really good. She did a great job at that. Shout out to my mom. Terrific job on the dressing year in, year out. My grandmother even wrote in her cookbook that it's the best dressing she's ever had.
That's a big compliment.
Very
big
big
compliment. I'm struggling, fellas. I'm struggling to identify anything. So that's
Do
what's.
we spatchcock our turkey? No.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, and so that
It's
makes
when
me
you- it's when
uncomfortable.
you
Yeah,
push
Bryce,
down and break it.
you need to get the new edition in the mail quickly because this deserves some band hammer right here. Unsweet tea. You're coming at me. You're coming at me about canned Brunswick
Bam!
stew,
Just
and you're
wait.
gonna come back in here with
Just
unsweet
wait.
tea.
Wait till I get mine in.
Shout out! Look at that
Whoever made it.
LSU band hammer.
Check cleared, obviously.
Check did clear. Okay, no, on mine, I'm having a hard time because for my great grandmother's in the hospital, so we just did like a plate of turkey sandwiches from Publix and took it up to the hospital and ate. So that's what that is. And then everyone knows the situation on the other side of things. So
A turkey sandwich from Publix is hard to beat.
it is, and it's it wasn't boar's head, so it wasn't going to kill you. So that was also
no
good.
Just eat Uncle
listeria.
Bob's mac and cheese. That's all you need.
Shout out Hillary's cousin made some.
Oh,
This
Oh,
is
God.
this is great. Shout out Hillary's cousin made some fire mashed potatoes. They're very buttery, good consistency, and some really good collard greens. I'm a big collard greens guy.
Collard greens are good.
So that was that. Because I'm not a turkey guy. Now Christmas time, I'll destroy a ham. Good big ham guy. Good ham. So, as our guy, Mr. Morpeth up there at Country's Barbecue, you can have a ham for Christmas or a turkey for Thanksgiving, and then a ham for Thanksgiving and a turkey for Christmas. Hashtag not an ad. Okay, 8 minutes into this thing, we've talked about absolutely nothing. So let's get into the conversation.
The first thing we got to say about this Georgia Tech game, we got to set the facts straight. Clayton says SEC officiating crew at the best moments of all time. He just commented about an oxymoron. I hope he understands, and all Tech fans know and understand. That was an ACC crew calling that game. That's how these non-conference rivalries work.
Apparently, there's a debate online about that. Like, I agree with you. That's been the thought process, right? But
that
apparently
that was an ACC crew.
Yeah.
I watched enough ACC to know that was an ACC crew.
Goldfellow says sweet potato casserole, brown sugar pecan crust on top is peak. Yes.
That's like dessert.
That's amazing. That's amazing. All right, let's talk Georgia Tech, Georgia. And look, guys, I'll kind of let you fellas take it away here with where you want to go with this because, I'll type it out. I'm going to type out the banners because I didn't do that beforehand. Hand up situation. I talked on Friday, I guess technically Saturday morning at 1:30 in the morning about this game and just some like my instant reaction thoughts. I was in the stands right there in the middle of the Tech section. And it was just, first off, it's one of the craziest games I've ever been to in my life, just in terms of the back and forth seesaw affair. Will, starting with you, what were your takeaways of this game? And then just overarching themes. We can get into some of maybe the specifics here in a second, but just your takeaways from Georgia Tech, Georgia. Probably one of the best editions of clean old-fashioned hay we've seen in a very, very long time.
In a very, very long time. I put it in the Discord during the game, and everybody was ready to come at my throat because it was before the game went final. Brent Key outcoached Kirby Smart big time for probably 4 quarters, I would say. I think there was, you get into the 2-point conversion stuff. Everybody's going to overthink that, right? I really hate the way that we're finishing up college football games now. Once you get past double overtime, it's like a penalty kick shootout. and I just don't like it. I think I'm just not a fan. I think we saw that from Buster Faulkner, probably that whole 2-point face-off. I think a lot of overthinking. Georgia Tech should have won this game. They outplayed Georgia for 3.5 quarters and really should have won this game. They really attacked Georgia's weaknesses better than probably anybody has all season, spearheaded by Haynes King, who, I mean, what can you say about Haynes King that hadn't already been said? I mean, the dude is a warrior. He's not just a great quarterback, he's a great football player. I mean, he's been banged up for what, 6 weeks?
Since before Notre Dame. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's been banged up with a banged up shoulder for the majority of the year. And it's like, it hasn't mattered. I mean, and Tech was really balanced, but if you can gash Georgia, words are hard. If you can gash Georgia and run on them, you're going to have a ton of success. And Georgia Tech was able to do that. I know what everybody wants to talk about. Was it targeting? Was it not targeting? Absolutely not. It was not targeting. Yes, Dan Jackson led with the crown of his helmet. No, he did not go up high on Haynes King. I mean, he literally hit the ball, and Haynes King had it tucked. That's just a perfect play from Dan Jackson. But I can understand the frustration. I can understand, Bryce, I know you felt like it was targeting. At least Friday night you did. I don't know if you've gone back and had any other thoughts about it, but that is based on the way the game is officiated now. And I can understand it, but I'm for not just the integrity of the game, that I'm so glad that wasn't targeting, because that is how you teach a defender to knock the ball out of a ball carrier's hand. Just perfectly executed. But we can go on and on about officials, but I don't think you can blame officials for a game that goes to 8 overtimes. I think at some point you've got to execute, and Tech had their chances. They got a couple stops in those overtime periods, but they couldn't get it in the end zone to win it by 2. So, but yeah, like you said, one of the best clean old fashioned hates, maybe of our lifetimes. I mean, you've watched more than I have, but at least that I can remember, maybe the best.
Yeah, and Ralph, before we head to you this, because you might want to touch on this too. I'm glad they didn't throw targeting on that call. Like in real time, I'm sitting there, and when I'm sitting amongst who I'm sitting to, it's more like you're in the moment. And I will tell you, like it's. I've gone public so many times this year saying this, like, get rid of targeting, just get rid of the penalty. Let's call personal fouls for malicious intent. Like, let's do that. Let's do that going forward. I will say this though, I'm glad, because that's football. Like Haynes King lowering himself, Dan Jackson lowering himself. Who can win the battle of who's getting lower to get that 1 yard? That's a football play. Neither guy was trying to be malicious intent. Anything like I think that is a play where it's like, that's football. Like the rule, but here's the problem. And people are going to bring up, well, here's A, B, and C of what the rule says. But you know what? Nobody goes by the rule book. We've seen targeting called for way less, and then that play, we've seen targeting not called for that and more. So my problem is with the interpretation of the rule and the fact that it's a massive gray area. There's no black and white scenario for it. So that to me, that in my opinion is just one of the big takeaway. We don't have to talk much more about it, Ralph, unless you want to mention it. But to me, at the end of the day, it's just football, and there's two guys trying to make a football play and get 1 yard, and what happens. Now, that was, I will say this, to me, that was obviously, people point to a turning point. I'll even say this earlier in the game and I know Austin Bodley's in here, a Georgia fan, when Arian Smith took that double or took the reverse, and he goes upfield and he runs over Amari Harvey. Arian Smith's a track guy. He's not a guy that really lowers his shoulder. That to me, I was like, we were in the stands and I was sitting with several Georgia Tech families of players, and we all looked at each other and said, okay, they're here. Like, they've decided to show up. Because it felt a little desperate. They had to pull a trick play out to really kind of get things going. When Arian Smith put his shoulder pad in Amari Harvey, you were like, okay, we're about to see a ball game here over the next however long after that. So, Ralph, if you want to talk about that, you're more than willing to, but just maybe what you kind of thought from the game. Ralph fell asleep, by the way, and he had to wake up the next morning because Ralph did work that day. So that there is that. But
Yeah,
Anyway,
I had
your
a
thoughts.
long week of work last week, and then obviously with Thanksgiving, everything was kind of thrown off for us. Yeah, I fell asleep right in I think the last 8 minutes in the fourth quarter. Just passed out on my couch over here. Game still on, just out like a light. Woke up 7 o'clock next morning, brewed a cup of coffee, watched the rest of the game. Just to get an idea. You're up 27-13. Fourth
With
quarter.
5 and some change left.
Yeah. You allow them to score twice. You go to overtime. You go to 8 overtimes with this team. You can't convert in the 2-point conversions. There's so many
2-point conversions.
6
By the
2-point
way,
conversions. You can't stop them on the last one. It's just a simple run play in the middle. Your team was exhausted. I can't say that more enough. You play a game that long, and I can't say it enough that yes, y'all spoke perfectly about Haynes King. He gutted it out. He really
that
did.
was
I mean,
unbelievable.
Post game, if you pull up a post game interview, just a picture of him sitting there, that's a guy who's just worked through pain, like 4 quarters and a bunch of overtimes, just beat up. Your defense was exhausted. The depth's not there right now. It's coming soon. I feel like this hurt them in the end. They needed to win that game in 4 quarters. They could not go to overtime with this team. Georgia has all the depth in the world on both sides of the ball. They can rotate with the best of them, and it showed late in the game. I mean, I'm not saying anything's wrong with Tech, but I've been saying it all year. Their strength and conditioning has been awful this year. It truly has. Injuries left and
4
right.
DBs go down in this game.
And I think I had some people in the comments the next morning mention I agree because it's true. I mean, strength and conditioning goes so far into the later in the season for these big games like this. You got teams that you're beat up, but it's your rivalry game. You're gonna step up. You prepare all year for it. It proved on Friday night that Georgia was just better conditioned in this situation. I know that the game didn't look like that in the first 3 quarters, 3.5 quarters really, but those last few drives, Georgia showed up, and that's all that mattered because that's how the game ends.
Yeah,
and I hate to say it that way because I know Tech's, you got to take the wins at where you can. You went to battle with this team for 4 quarters and overtime.
Yeah,
Take the win. I know it's not a good win, but you showed up. You proved everyone wrong that you're here. This is Georgia Tech. Now, what happens next is that you play a good bowl game. You win a good bowl game. You get 8 wins?
8 and 5. Yeah,
8 and 5. You doubted a lot of people. You doubted me mostly.
Beat the win total by what? 3?
Yeah,
it was a 5 over under 5 win total.
5.5, I think. So I know it's not a great ending to the season, but just move on from this as fast as you can because there's a bowl game coming. You're going to play a pretty solid team in the bowl game, hopefully.
Yeah.
And next year is the season where you need to lay the wood on somebody. Show up. That Notre Dame game should feel awful in your mouth. That Virginia Tech game should feel awful in your mouth. The Georgia game shouldn't. It really should because you showed up. You played 4 quarters football. You fought to the end. The NC State game to me, that scared me more than anything for Tech because if they lost that game, there's no way they would have won this. They would have had a chance to beat Georgia. They'd have lost all momentum going to that game. That game was a huge game for them. Philo played great. Haynes King made a few plays in that game where he was, you can tell he's still hurt, but to go out there and throw the ball as well as he did against Georgia, I mean, it wasn't perfect. I'll say that. It wasn't perfect throwing the ball, but, threw for 300 yards, 26 to 36, 2 touchdowns. It was a lot of short routes. It wasn't anything like crazy, but they were picking them apart in the first half.
Oh, yeah.
Eric Singleton, obviously, we know how good he is. He's a great, he had a great year last year as a freshman. Obviously, teams know who he is now, but he still picked apart Georgia. So, future's bright for Georgia Tech. I'm not going to say that they're not. A lot of things can happen this offseason, though. You got to keep some of the pieces you have there and then fill the ones you're going to lose.
Yeah.
Future's bright, but it could dim quickly. And that's the reality for everybody.
Stop laughing.
That's the reality for everybody. I mean, that's the state of college football. I mean, it very well can. Ralph, you make a great point. They got to have continuity. And when you have a really good year like this, big dogs start sniffing around.
Mm-hmm.
They dodged a bullet today. Buster Faulkner rumored to be a part of
What
the
are you shaking
Oklahoma
your
OT
head at?
talks, and
Shaking your head at.
I just
Dodged one bullet. They haven't dodged all of them yet.
well, they dodged the one bullet with Oklahoma. I will say this about what we were talking about is look, a couple people made the comments. The PI call was worse to me than the non-targeting call. That ball was tipped, and it wasn't a bad PI, but the ball was tipped, and they still called it and went against Tech, and obviously
Was
that
that the
gave
one on
Georgia
Warren
extra
Burrell?
plays. I guess it was over the middle. Yeah, over the middle of the field in the end zone. No. That one, I didn't have a problem with that one. That one was PI. The one that was in the end zone where it's 3rd and goal, I believe,
okay.
and the ball's tipped at the line. It is what it is. What it is.
Yeah.
So it sucks. But look, this is the thing too. People like to focus on this, and I saw so much on Friday about early in the morning on Saturday of just people reposting conspiracy theories and all this type of stuff, and it's like that's it was, in my opinion, it was just. It's just you still have to play the game, and that's why I'm not going to blame this on. And like I said, and we'll move on from this after this. I'm not going to blame the referees for Georgia Tech losing. Like Ralph and Will both said, you had ample opportunities to take care of business, and I see people saying it was on 4th down. It was 4th and goal, and it kept Georgia's drive alive and allowed them to be able to get in the end zone. But just bottom line, like they should have executed better. The two things I took away from it was Buster Faulkner's play calling got a little bit lackadaisical in my opinion there towards the end of the game. They should have run the ball. Yeah, I felt like they played like I feel like they kind of played not to lose a little bit. And then defensively, when has running prevent defense ever helped anybody? And especially against a quarterback that is really bad under pressure, and Tech does not have great one-on-one win. They don't win a lot of one-on-one battles in the pass rush. Send it, and if he makes the play, tip your cap. But when you allow him to have the 5, 10, 7 yard routes, that gets him in a rhythm. And I think that's what happened over the last 5 minutes of the game. He felt comfortable. He's like, okay, we're moving the ball. There's the drag route to Dominic Lovett. There's this pass, that pass. It is what it is. I mean, game. But I will say this, and I said that clean old fashioned hate is back, and I'm glad. Growing up in this rivalry, this is something that I wanted to see better. I feel like it's back. It's more prominent, and we'll see what happens next year. I will say this: I get that you get the $10 million. Just awful that this game's gonna be played Mercedes-Benz next year.
I have one more thing, and I know a lot of people don't agree with this, but 4th and 1, 4th and inches, whatever play was in the first half, you bring Zach Pyron in to run the ball. Why?
They've been doing it all year.
Yeah,
try to not let him transfer.
It's the most obvious play call in the world. I sat there on the phone with my dad talking to him during the game. He's like, why is this a backup quarterback? And I said, they're running the ball. He's running the ball forward. He's going to go run forward and get stopped. And it's done it all year long. It doesn't work against a team like Georgia. Haynes King was running all over them. Leave him in. That's a first down automatically. Yeah. I just don't think that was a great play. I think that was a bad call. Oh. Obviously, Georgia didn't get the ball back and go downfield and score, but still, I mean, if that's later in the game and Georgia has momentum, that's a bad look in my opinion. But that's just fair. I know Pyron's leaving. I mean, I saw it today. But that going forward, like Tech does not need to do that ever again. That was it's too obvious.
Well, it's why I also said that having Aaron Philo available this game probably doesn't make you any better, because they would have Georgia, has a good defense, would have keyed in already on what was going on. Having Haynes King and the fact that he could throw the ball, Georgia didn't expect that. And it wasn't 40-yard bombs. Like he can't throw the ball more than 20 yards down the field without some serious pain. Buster Faulkner out schemed Kirby Smart and them. Like, you got to keep Buster Faulkner for Georgia Tech. I think he's only there for probably maybe max 2026 is when I think he's somewhere new. That's when I think he's officially somewhere new. So go ahead.
One last thing you talked about. You mentioned Georgia getting desperate earlier, and then seeing in the comments, well, if Tech would have got this call, or if this would have happened, Tech would have won the game. If Kirby Smart kicks that extra point in the third quarter instead of going for 2, Georgia wins this game in regulation. He went for 2, didn't get it, and then scored 2 touchdowns.
Wild call.
Yeah, I didn't understand it at the time. And then played out. He just kicks the extra point. They win 28-27. They don't have to go to overtime.
Crazy.
I also didn't like that Bailey Stockton wasn't used on offense really that much.
He's good.
He's been good all year. He played great against NC State. And I know NC State and Georgia aren't the same caliber team, but he's been a weapon for them all year. Why was he not used at all?
The ACC and the SEC are the exact same, Ralph. There's no difference.
Yeah. We know Ralph loves exciting whites. We know.
Cooper DeJean, baby. You see that tackle he got on Derrick Henry yesterday?
No, because nobody watches the NFL. So, anyways, let's talk next game. Georgia Tech was a crazy one. How about this one? South Carolina runs the Palmetto State. I think we've talked about. Well, first off, shout out to Shane Beamer. Not going to get fired, by the way. 9-3.
What? Not getting fired?
Not going to get fired. Recruiting momentum.
I thought that was a foregone conclusion.
In the SEC on that roster. Lenora Sellers is an absolute monster. They're fun to watch. Beamer ball is fun, and South Carolina exceeded expectations. Will, you and I sat here and said, I don't know if they could get over 6 wins in the summer. And we said that, and South Carolina fans came after us. They obviously knew stuff we didn't. Hand-up situation. This defense is very good. Lenora Sellers is completely dynamic. Like, that guy is very fun to watch. Ralph, we'll start with your thoughts on this. I don't know how much of this game you got to watch. But
this was one of the only games I really watched, I think, the whole way through. Besides 2 other games. But yeah, Lenora Sellers has been that guy this year. This is easily a 2-loss, 1-loss team with a few things that change. Honestly. The LSU game, Bryce, and you the one who were there.
Gavin, you were cheating.
You were absolutely cheating. Yeah. Lenora Sellers goes down against LSU. Robbie Ashford steps in. LSU wins. LSU loses that game if Lenora Sellers stays in. And I think that's by far the truth. Well, because they lost all offensive momentum with that Nimrod at quarterback.
Okay.
Yeah, I said it. He's terrible.
Who?
Robbie Ashford. Yeah.
Hopefully his mom's not watching.
I could care less. But yeah, I mean,
Robbie, I wish you would have stayed at Auburn.
Okay. We'll play baseball.
Playing center field next year, taking over for Chris Stanfield. Anyways, keep going.
LSU's defense. South Carolina's defense has been really good this year. Obviously, the front seven's disgusting. Dylan Stewart, disgusting.
Kyle Kennard
having a great year. They just seem to get better and better week in, week out. Obviously, the losses they had this year, when the Ole Miss was a bad taste in their mouth. And you saw the change they made from that week. They made a few changes on the offensive line and the secondary, and they just got better within a week or two. And this team's good. And going forward, if this team has a small chance to make the playoffs in some way, somehow, slip in there, you don't want to play them. Because they'll go anywhere and say, we'll play anyone. That's what they're saying.
Unfortunately,
I know
there's one team that can lose by 21 to a 6-6 team and only drop 3 spots to just outside the playoff, which means that they would be back in the playoff.
Mm-hmm. ESPN loves it.
No, South Carolina. I love how we had a segment on the show, I guess now 2 weeks ago, about are they the hottest team in college football? And like 25 people commented, they're not going to go to the playoff. And we didn't say they ever were going to go to the playoff. We straight up said they're the hottest team in college football, and I don't think a lot of teams want to play them. Ralph put some good stuff there. Will, your thoughts? Shane Beamer, man, they're straight vibes, and it's fun.
You said hands up situation. Yeah, I didn't know much about him. Kyle Kennard, slept on him. Dylan Stewart, didn't even know who that was because I'm a rock dweller. Lenora Sellers, slept on him. I mean, hit snooze 10 times on Lenora Sellers. They're really good. They're a lot of fun. And I think we're seeing this more and more. You get head coaches, CEOs, vibe guys, getting just 2 master tacticians, one to run the offense, one to run the defense, and they get the most out of their players, and it's working. I think that's kind of the new trend, and I think that is something that more programs and more athletic directors should look into, because it's clearly working at South Carolina. I mean, 9 wins. No, I don't think anybody expected 9 wins out of South Carolina. No. I mean, nationally, obviously some of their fans let us know that we didn't know what we were talking about, but they're fun. They're fun to watch. I really hate that they're going to just miss out on the playoff because it's a popularity contest and not about who's better. But then you can make the counter argument if they would have just held on and beat Alabama, they'd be in the playoff. But no ifs, ands, or buts, coulda, woulda, shouldas. Those don't matter. But South Carolina's a lot of fun. I hope South Carolina can keep it rolling into 2025.
Yeah, me too.
Because they got a lot of pieces coming back.
Hey, I can't wait to talk to Shane Beamer.
As of now, they've got a lot of guys coming back.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk to Shane Beamer about this past season. It'll be a lot of fun. Ralph, your thoughts on South Carolina just in general. We'll talk Clemson in a later episode because they're just, I don't know what's up with Clemson, but yeah, your thoughts on South Carolina.
Isn't it your turn now? Because I just spoke earlier.
You already spoke. Apologies. No, yeah. So my bad. I'm sorry.
What are you talking about?
Sorry. Long drive yesterday. South Carolina, this is a perfect example of just a team that really, really believes, and then they've got the talent to do it. And it's just a perfect marriage of, I don't know, a lot of different things. It's just they've captured, now whether it's going to be lightning in a bottle, I think it's more than that though, because they did this 2 years ago against Tennessee and Tennessee and Clemson, where they found this magic. And then last year was disappointing. We talked a lot about last year for South Carolina, how it was a year where the lines of scrimmage were well below where they needed to be. And this year, I don't think the offensive line's great, but you have a quarterback, which, guys, some of those runs the Lenore Settlers had are that's ridiculous.
That touchdown run against Clemson, I mean,
oh my gosh.
It's like he ran the width of the field.
Yeah, and then just scooted in. That was what was crazy. He just kind of okay, I'm going to go into the end zone right here. No, they're fun. They're a lot of fun to watch. I like watching South Carolina. I still think they're the hottest team in college football in terms of what they've been able to do. They're on a big win streak. They've now knocked off their in-state rival, which that was one where they were kind of the whipping boy for a decent amount of time. They've done that 2 out of the past 3 years. Oh, and they've done it at their stadium for the past 2 out of 3 years. So it's, in my opinion, I like South Carolina. We're going to talk playoffs here in just a second, but be interesting. All right, let's get to one more game, then I want to get to your takeaways. Maybe y'all had some. We know Will's going to take 25 minutes on his big takeaway, or maybe not. Maybe he's just going to say it and whatever. Michigan stuns Ohio State. First off,
I was nervous about what you were going to want to talk about next, and I'm happy it's this game.
You don't want to talk about the Iron Bowl?
No, dude. That
was honest to God boring. That was a boring football game. Guys, is that okay?
Yeah, and Auburn got 4 turnovers and lost by 2 touchdowns because they're terrible.
Yeah, because they let a running back throw all over them. Michigan stuns Ohio State. We'll start with you on this, Will. What is Ryan Day doing, man? What? I have been a big proponent of Ryan Day. Okay, let's just wait and see. And that's typically how I view things. Let's just wait and see approach. I don't get this. Michigan doesn't have a quarterback. Well, they do next year, but man, they don't really have a quarterback. They don't really have a lot except for a lot of passion from a coach that acts like he's a fan, which is cool, I guess. And then the big telling thing to me in this game was the post-game skirmish, okay? And not a skirmish, like a fight. First off,
crazy.
Why are we macing college football players?
Yeah, why are we macing college football players? Why is Gus Johnson acting like the president just got shot? Why
are we using pepper spray for football players shoving after a game?
And you could tell that Joel Klatt was like, "Oh, okay, you might be doing a little overboard on this." I don't. Gus Johnson's a hard listen for me, anyways. I don't love it. It's fun to see the clips. I don't know if I can listen to a full 60-minute game of that. But yeah, he acted like something, just some type of world tragedy happened, and that was crazy. No, what Michigan? I don't understand this. The telling thing though, Ryan Day is just sitting there. Have y'all seen the clip?
He's just standing there.
He's just standing there.
Yeah, it's the most wild. It's just
looking.
Shocked. And it's funny because it started right when they're doing their little song after every game they do.
Yeah.
That's when Michigan went over and spiked their flag in the middle of the field, and Ryan Day just kind of turned around and just shocked by everything. Just didn't know what's going on.
People were getting
beat up.
People were getting mazed. People were not mazed.
The maze came out later. I mean, it was a solid 15 minutes of just pure on brawl, and then they brought the mace out.
And he just stood there.
I mean, he was very obviously shell
probably just-
shocked by
Yeah, because you got
everything
Herm
that
Edwards. Herm Edwards right there, probably. AD walked down there and said, "Hey, you're done. Bye."
How do you lose that game? Will,
motivation.
go.
I think it's obvious that Ryan Day struggles to motivate that team, to motivate his team, to motivate anybody to get up. I mean, I thought he sounded really motivational when he went after the fake Lou Holtz after last year against Notre Dame.
That was the dumbest thing I've ever seen on live television. But yeah, keep going.
But no, these big rivalry games. It's all about motivation, and we saw it a lot of it. You know, the little brother, the team that the underdog comes up and they play up, and that happens a lot in big rivalry games. And Michigan was obviously motivated. You know that was the pitch from Sharon Moore. It's like, look, we didn't achieve our goals this year, but we can do a lot to make sure Ohio State doesn't achieve theirs either. We can make their road a whole lot tougher if we beat them, and we're not going to be scared of them. And I think that's kind of the edge that Sharon Moore brings to his Michigan program. Is they're not going to back down. They're not going to be afraid of anybody. Just unfortunately for them this year, they just didn't have it. I mean, they had so many problems, but you know, it's kind of like the Iron Bowl. It's one game. The game 12 is the only one that matters, and that's the only game that really matters for Michigan and Ohio State, and that's why there's all this talk about Ryan Day. And you know, Ryan Day going forward, I think he's got to win the national championship this year, or he's gone. I mean, because they're going to make the playoff as an at-large. They're probably going to have to go on the road at this point. But I think they got to run the table and win it all. I mean, win it all for him to keep his job, which is just a wild concept that you have to win the national championship to keep your job. But I think that's where Ohio State is right now.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, I mean, you mentioned it right there. Like, you've underachieved with such great talent, so that's why it is the way it is. Like,
yeah,
you know, it's just it's crazy. I watched this game, or not left. You know, I was heading out. I was in the car when I was towards the end of the game, and I was like, this doesn't make sense. Like, I don't understand how they lost this game. Like, I get motivation. That's such a better team on paper. Like, it just didn't make any sense. Ralph, your thoughts? Like,
well, I might as well
what'd you take away?
I might as well go to my takeaway.
Yeah, this is
okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, the $1 million roster failed. I mean, it truly did. Beginning of the season, or I guess at Big Ten media days, Ryan Day told everyone there's 3 goals this year: beat Michigan, win the Big Ten title, win the national championship. As of right now, you're 0 for 2 on those. If you go 0 for 3 on the goals that you set beginning of the season and made it nationally known, this is what you were going to do with this stacked roster you got. You lost 2 games in conference. You lost on the road to Oregon. Okay, that's an understandable loss. That was one game, was a toss-up. No one's mad at you about that one. Then you just get beat by your rival at home, who was 6-6, by the way. There's no reason to lose to Michigan. They should have beat them by 50. Honestly, they truly should. It's a disappointment.
It was a 20-point spread. Boy, this was
21.
something.
It was 21. 21-point spread. You lose by 3 at home to a team that had no quarterback, like you said, have a very good defensive line. I won't doubt that. Mason
Running
Graham,
back that really hasn't played that explosive this year.
Donovan Edwards has been a shell of himself all season.
Yeah.
Mason Graham's a beast, though.
Terrible.
That dude's an absolute stud. He's a first-round draft pick. I said it last year. The games are really good. But going forward, Ryan Day, I think you will said it, you have to win the national championship to keep your job. I don't know if he can. I don't think they have the mentality to win anymore. This team is just so shot out. You watch Jack Sawyer, who has been a 4-year starter on this team, who never beat Michigan once, go out there and rip the flag out of Michigan players' hand and get mad. You can't get mad. You got beat by Michigan 4 years in a row, dude. There's no you need to go off the field and sit in your locker room and cry about it. Like, it's simple. I'm sorry. It's true. You're sitting there. You're going to get mad at them for celebrating. They just beat one of the best teams in the country, and they shouldn't have been in the game at all.
Yeah.
You let them walk in there and beat you. It's hilarious.
And you
look, and Bryce knows, I have an Ohio State friend I work with.
That was
lost
wild.
his mind. Lost his mind. And I talked to him today at work. He said, I have no joy in my life right now to go out and work, to go out and do anything. I sat in my house from the end of the game. He said, I sat in my house from the end of the game until 12 o'clock before I went to bed. Didn't talk to anybody. My phone was off. He goes, I went on Red Dead Redemption 2 and just started hunting little animals. That's all he did. He goes, wow. I didn't talk to a single person. I didn't watch any more football. I could not.
Sounds like a guy on this. That sounds like something a guy on this show would do. Oh yeah, I could see you doing that if Auburn.
Well, on my screens, it's this way for y'all.
I don't know. Gavin says FIFA, not Red Dead.
He can't play FIFA anymore.
No, look, Michigan's. This is just wild, and I'm going to get to my takeaway here in a second. So it kind of gets with that. But Will, what's your takeaway?
Well, I got one more note on Ohio State. The funniest thing to me was after the game, Ryan Day asked about the fight. He goes, "Well, I just know my guys aren't going to let somebody plant their flag on our field." Buddy, you had 60 minutes to make sure that didn't happen as a 3-touchdown favorite.
Who was interviewed after the game by
Michigan player?
Yeah, number 20. I don't know his name. I don't know
running back. He's a running back. Yeah.
He said the best response I think you could have said,
especially in the heat of the moment.
Yeah, right after all the fight was over, he said they had 4 quarters to do that in the first place. I mean, it's the truth. 4 quarters. 60 minutes. It's always in every hype video. You have 60 minutes to go out there and just and do what you need to do. I don't think Ohio State was up for the game. Like Gavin said, they got up more for Indiana. They went out there and said Indiana was their national championship game. Michigan should be every year. It's your rival. You want to have that you want to beat them no matter what their record is, no matter what your record is. There's Auburn fans I know who would rather go 1-11, Will, and beat Alabama. That'd be
You're talking to one.
There's Tech fans that would like to go 1-11 and just beat Georgia.
There's Troy fans who want to see 1-11 beat South.
Before we get to, and I see Will, you pulled something up. Is it you? Or you're getting ready for your takeaway? Before we do your takeaway, because my takeaway has to do with this game, so I want to do that real quick, Ralph. I put that in there here a second ago. I'm going to say this. I'm not offended by flag planting. We saw it several different times. Now, I don't think
Baker did it first, and it was awesome. Let's just say that.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Like, if you're going to, man, we can only continue to, I'm going to be nice here, wussify college football so much and this sport so much before it's not what it is. And if you want, if the rivalries, and I've said this multiple times, rivalries are more for fans than anybody else. Like most players don't actually hate each other, especially in-state rivalries. Like you played 7-on-7 with guys, like stuff like that. But here's the thing with this, with the flag planting thing. We saw this, and guys, please correct me if I'm wrong in these games. NC State, UNC, we saw this. Michigan, Ohio State, and what was the last one?
Florida State.
Arizona and Arizona State as well.
Okay, so here's my thing with the flag. The flag, it's passion, it's rivalries, it's what we love about it. College football and flag planting, it's like going back in time to when you had, tribal and type of stuff, to when you say, hey, there's a pride in what we do and we're going to war against somebody. That's what this sport is. You can't take that out of it. So you can't talk about rivalry weekend and leave the passion and the hatred out of it. You can't do that. And I feel like we continue to water down the sport to the point of where it's like, well, we don't want to do this. Well, like, you know what? If you don't want somebody to plant their flag on your logo, don't let them. Don't let them win. Don't let them do it. And it goes, I'm like this with several different things in sports, bat flips, all this sort of stuff. It's fun, man. Celebrate when you do what you do, because this is such a hard thing to do. It's very hard for Michigan to go into Ohio State and beat them the way they did. Like we've sat here and talked about, they were outmatched on paper completely. Nobody gave them a chance to win this game, and they went and did it. So celebrate. I don't think it's showing anybody up until it becomes a face-to-face interaction with somebody else. So I'm cool with let's don't have brawls, but the flag planting, like, if you don't want it to happen, you don't want to see it, get off the field because you just got your butt handed to you for 60 minutes. That's my whole
I'm-
thing with this. I don't hate flag planting. I think we have gotten so soft on college football and where we've targeting all these different things. This is a warrior sport. And here I'll say this too. If you're going to praise guys that put their body on the line, you have to allow them to celebrate like they just did it. And a great example, like I'll say this, Haynes King, straight up warrior mentality in that Georgia game. Dude was not even close to 100%, put the team in offense on his back to go try to win that football game. If Tech would have won that game and they would have taken the Georgia Tech flag, the gold flag, and put it right there in the middle of the G, dude, they earned it. They went into your house and they staked claim on your land. And that's you can't have it both ways. So that's my thoughts. Whoever wants to take it first on this, if you have any thoughts on it, or we can move on because I know we're running up against time here.
I'm all for brawls, especially when the other team gets 2 unsportsmanlike penalties as a result.
Yeah, because crash out was one of them. Don't forget that.
Yeah,
Dude, that
the crash out queen.
Look, I agree with Bryce. Yeah, if it's gonna happen, and you don't want it to happen,
don't let it.
beat them. Don't let it happen. Don't let them happen. Like, don't let them do it. Don't let them beat you. Don't let them hit a home run off you. Don't let them score on you. I mean, I saw one of the crazy. Did you see the East Carolina game? Did you see the celebration thing I did? The Navy guy hit him in the back late. He turned around and hit a fadeaway at him. Like, that's disrespectful, but I get it. Like, it's the heat of a moment, man. You're celebrating. Now, that's a little personal, but I just saw a funny comment. Sorry. But like back in the Iron Bowl, mid-game, 2 guys been going at it the entire game. Frustrations are high. A player gets pushed out of bounds. They flip each other over, and they just start wailing on each other. Like that. At least you show some grit in the game. At least
somebody showed they cared.
Someone wants to win. Someone wants to beat the guy in front of them. Like, that's what matters. And
somebody showed they cared.
You can't make this sport anything else. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's a war. That's what it is.
And Bryce said also a minute ago, most of these guys don't even care about that rival. Now, there are some guys who grew up.
Some people, some guys throw it 20 yards out of bounds on 4th down. That's how little they care.
Some people also call a double pass for the running back.
Yeah, and then say it didn't work because they didn't coach it good enough. No, why are you calling that play anyway?
Yeah, well, they're not getting that.
The season didn't work because they didn't coach it good enough. But I digress.
Yeah, and that's just my final thing. It's like it's stupid to get upset about someone planting a flag. Like, it truly is. Like, I mean, if Auburn wins at Auburn against Alabama next year and they plant the flag of themselves in the middle field, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. They do it.
I mean, that sounds like something a Hugh Freeze team would do. To be fair,
well, look, next year in a neutral, what was a neutral site game? What was a bowl game? Do it in bowl games. It's more fun. Just win. Stop losing.
Have fun.
I mean, I'll tell you what.
You play to win the game.
Do you know who the best example
demonetized immediately?
Do you know who the best example is for playing and having fun out there? And it's college basketball. Dylan Cardwell. If you want to go out there and have fun, Dylan Cardwell has fun with the game. That's all I got to say.
We're derailing this podcast.
Gavin, handle my lightweight.
I appreciate it. All right, let's go real quickly here. Will, give me yours. Where you on this? We didn't call it, but we called it.
We didn't call it, but we called it. Now, what am I talking about? Pony up. The SMU Mustangs, best team in the ACC. And we called it, but they even exceeded our expectations. We told you all spring and summer, do not be surprised to see SMU near the top of the ACC. This roster is very competitive. It's one of the better rosters in the ACC. We all felt very strongly about that. Everybody said we were crazy. There's no way a team from a lower conference can go up to a power conference and compete. SMU did it because, like we said, they operate like a power conference program already. They were gearing up for Big 12 expansion. They got left out, had a bad taste in their mouth. Sorry, ACC. You got the brunt of that because they just came in and
they came in your trap and took over your trap.
They came in your trap, took over your trap. Yes, they avoided all the big hitters of the conference, but they had some really big wins. They blew out Florida State. I don't care what you say. Florida State's the flagship, one of the flagship programs of the ACC. Embarrassed them. They went on the road, beat Louisville. I mean, we try to tell you they were legit, and they did it a couple different ways. They started with Preston Stone at quarterback, didn't work. Rhett Lashley, who, if he's not ACC Coach of the Year, I mean, who's voting? Whoever's voting on this and doesn't vote him as Coach of the Year is just doesn't deserve to vote. Had the guts to change quarterbacks, and Kevin Jennings, that dude. I'm probably gonna be drugged for this because of my previous Heisman takes. That dude's gonna be a Heisman finalist next year. Maybe at SMU, maybe not. But SMU's got deep pockets, so they're gonna do all they can to keep him there, as they should. We tried to tell you. Sometimes we're right. It's rare.
It's rare,
especially coming from me. But I was right for once, and I'm taking my victory lap.
Take your victory lap. You know, it just feels so good. It feels so good. I remember the comments. I remember that back and forth on Instagram we had with that one guy about how there's no possible way. And I wanted to say this too. We never said SMU would win the ACC. We said that this would be at least a top 6 team in the conference. And you just saw right there. They're number 1, and they're going to be in Charlotte playing for a spot in the playoff.
They should be in the playoff regardless.
Yeah, I'm with that. I'm with that too. I don't know, man. I love watching this team play. Kevin Jennings is so good. Shout out to Rhett Lashley for having the cojones to say, I know Preston Stone's been our guy for a long time. We thought he was going to be, the guy for this transition into the ACC, and we bring Jennings along. But, man, the ceiling's higher with Kevin Jennings. He bought in on him, and they're fun, and they got a good defense. And I'll tell you this, Saturday, is Clemson favored in that game, by the way? We'll take a preview on Wednesday night. I don't know.
I think so, but Nick comes in. Haynes King will likely to win the Heisman than Kevin Jennings next year, and I don't think Haynes King's going to be in the running. Book it. Maybe sit this one out, partner.
I'd like to see 20-25 odds for that.
Maybe sit this one out, partner, because we were right once about SMU.
Oh, Ralph.
Ralph with the receipts.
Now, Ralph, I want to preface this with this. Ralph also picked NC State to win the ACC and Oklahoma State. I picked Oklahoma State to win the Big 12. Ralph picked Texas Tech. All right, now Ralph,
you have to win the Big 12.
Don't worry about this one down here. Don't worry about the Group of 5 one.
Not a bad one.
They were frauds.
Let's see the comments real quick.
There were no comments on that. Oh yeah, there's 4. It's just SMU fan liking us. That's all it was. It's true.
Will's monologue was like listening to Biden. Lots of incoherence. That's where he said beating FSU was something to be proud of.
What he said. That's not what he said. He said when you beat one of the flagship programs of the conference, I know they weren't good in terms of. I'm going to make shirts for somebody, and when people bring this up, I'm going to say it's called brand value. That is now. Will had UNC as a playoff.
did.
You did.
I just said it's not often that we're right.
It's not often, but man, when we are, we're going to.
I'm taking my victory lap.
Well, Will's in this picture, Will's Power 4 dark horse was Arizona. You were so close.
So close, Will.
You should have put State under there. It'd been fine. And in Group of 5 was Tulane. Bryce's.
I was right on that one.
Bryce's is not bad on the Power 4s. Penn State. The Group of 5 one failed.
Failed miserably.
Yeah. They just fired their coach today.
And they just fired their head coach, by the way. So
a real fan would have put Kennesaw State as the Group of 5 sleeper.
Okay. Well.
Okay, let's talk playoff real quick. We got about 5-6 minutes. We're going to be live probably tomorrow night, and we'll talk more about as the rankings are released. Guys, I mean, where do you go from here? Like, how much do you really want to get into this conversation of like, this is where I sit with it. Okay, you're going to have the Big Ten champ, and if it's Oregon, Oregon's going to be the 1 seed. I'm cool with that. And honestly, if Penn State wins, they might be the 1 seed, which I don't think Penn State's the best. I don't think Penn State's top 4 team in the country, in my opinion. But it's how we're doing this thing. So Big Ten, I'm going to slot them in the 1 spot. The SEC, I'm taking the 2 spot.
we should just call it what it is. I saw somebody tweeted it talking about if Alabama got in, need to change it to the College Football Invitational. That's what it is.
It's always
Because yeah, that's how it's always been. It's you almost can't earn your way in because there's so many arbitrary data points and so many just biases that the committee has that it's really not earned. If you want to go see teams earn a playoff spot, go watch the FCS. Go watch those playoffs.
Taking on Rhode Island this week, by the way, in Macon. If SMU wasn't in the race, we're in Macon, Georgia. That's all I'm saying. No, that's true because a lot of people, and look, we've put our foot down multiple times. None of this changes my stance that the SEC is the toughest conference week in, week out to play in. It doesn't change that. It also, and to me, it's funny because it kind of furthers the point. SEC title game picks.
Ralph's the only one right.
I've been told Ralph doesn't know ball.
I keep my receipts on. That's all I gotta say.
Bryce, let's cut ourselves some slack. Ole Miss beat Georgia the regular season.
They did. And I'm already seeing like SEC is undefeated in hypothetical matchups. I saw a tweet last night and it said, we have to stop acting like the conferences. We need to treat the conferences equally because they are. And I'm like, but they're not.
They're not equal.
They're not. And you can't. There's no. And this is where people like to say this. Like, so you're saying that Mississippi State would beat the ACC champ? No, nobody's saying that. Nobody in their right mind is saying that in this scenario.
Man, Barry might be slinging on somebody.
Maybe, but it's the fact that. And I'm not going to advocate it. I'm going to say this right now, and then I'll hand it off to you guys. Like. You kind of look at this like the big conversation right now is okay. It's going to be the Big Ten champ. Let's just say because they're hot right now. It's Arizona State is the Big 12 champ. Let's throw in the SEC champ. So Georgia or Texas. I will tell you this. To me, Georgia solidified their playoff spot with that win on Friday night. You can't. I'm not saying the SEC or whatever. Like I don't want to. And the same thing for SMU or Clemson to an extent. Clemson's a little bit different animal because they're going to be a 4-loss team. But you can't penalize a team for reaching a point in the season where on the 10, 12, 14 other teams didn't reach. You know what I'm saying? Like if SMU loses, yeah, I know the strength of schedule and all that kind of stuff, but it's like they went to their conference title game. And so are you going to tell us conference title games don't matter? They've said that before. What's the point of them? Well, if you're going to keep pouring money into them, you got to make them matter. And so I think that's why we're going to see some of this stuff matter. I think you're going to see Georgia get in with a loss. I think you're going to see Texas get in with a loss. I think you could see SMU get in. The conversation, we'll go to you first, Will, here, is between Alabama, South Carolina, Ole Miss, and then like these, a couple other teams where it's like, is there a way? And the argument's like, I don't even know where I sit because I think there's good points made on both sides of this of like Alabama beat South Carolina head to head, but Alabama's got some bad losses. Ole Miss probably has the worst loss out of those three SEC teams at home to Kentucky. I don't know how you fix this. I don't know where you go. And I think this is also an example of why a lot of people, it is. Now, this is going to say, I'm just going to get this real quick because if you have more losses, you shouldn't get in over a team with less. I think that logic works until you get to G5 to bring the best G5 team. So, Nick, this is where I would point out the fallacy in your argument. I do not believe, and I think there are data points to show that the SEC and to extent the top half of the Big Ten are tougher to navigate than the ACC and the Big 12. It's a harder level of play. It's better athletes. It's better competition. So in that sense, like I believe that a 3-loss Ole Miss, a 3-loss South Carolina we just saw, and a 3-loss Alabama is better than a 3-loss Clemson. I think that. I
think that you just want to look at the loss column. A 3-loss Ole Miss, a 3-loss Alabama, and a 3-loss South Carolina. All. And this could very well happen, can roll up into Bloomington, Indiana, and dog walk the Hoosiers. And I like Indiana. I like Coach Sig. But yeah, it's better athletes on those three teams. And if we want to talk about those three, if just my pick of who should get in, I think is Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss went into South Carolina and beat them up pretty bad. Ole Miss has, probably has the best win of all three. Well, Alabama beat Georgia too. I'm
But what you're getting into, you're getting down
why
the laundry list of stuff where
right.
it's
Yeah, that's why it's so difficult to figure out this last spot. But to me, if you want to talk about strength of conferences, your bottom half teams, your bottom teams, compare them. Like you want to compare SEC and ACC. Mississippi State, what, the worst team in the SEC? I think if they played on Saturday, you look at the bottom three of the ACCs: Wake, Stanford, and Florida State. I think Mississippi State might beat all three of them. I don't know the Big Ten standings off the top of my head. Purdue, they definitely beat Purdue. I mean, but that team also quit on Ryan Walters and cost him his job. Yeah, I mean, it's just so arbitrary. And George, another great comment, says, how does the NFL do it? How does soccer do it? How does basically every other sport do it? Group/division play, best records advance. Exactly. That's why I've said, at the end of the day, it's easy to make the playoff, win all your games, because they're not going to leave you out if you're 12-0, 13-0, win your conference.
Except
win
if your quarterback breaks his leg.
That's true. It's very true. Don't stay healthy and win all your games.
Well, I'll say this: there's a team right now who's be playing in Atlanta that there were rumors about their starting quarterback might not play.
In what? The game?
Yeah, he
Saturday?
he wasn't supposed to play last Saturday.
Oh.
Quinn Ewers was questionable going to that game. Played, obviously. Wasn't great, wasn't bad, but they got Arch Manning on. And if you look at that game, I know he didn't play very much, but that carry where he ran it in the end zone, that's dog mentality. That's getting in the end zone.
Yeah.
I don't care what anyone says. That dude can play.
He's got the best genes of all the Manning quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's true.
I have no clue if this is true, Evan. Holy cow, fellas! West Virginia has offered Rich Rodriguez a 10-year deal worth due to return for $70 million per. Oh, okay. Nick says 134 team playoff. I would not watch that.
Start at the beginning of the year that everyone just plays a pool play. I love it. I like it.
I'm going to sit with this real quick. I think Texas A&M is out. They're out for me.
They're out. They lost all. They're out. How bad can you be? You lost all.
They're out.
You're out.
Here's the problem. Okay, you've got Texas. They're 8-1 now. If Texas would have lost Texas A&M on Saturday, I'd put them out. The problem is you have Tennessee, who I think is in because they've won the most games. You have Alabama, Ole Miss, Georgia with 2 conference losses. Now, if Georgia loses, to me, they should be in. Like I don't
the
care.
SEC championship game does not matter.
It doesn't matter.
Georgia's already beat Texas on the road, and it's very, very hard to beat the same team twice
unless they get blown out like 42-10. That would it would take something crazy.
Tell you what, and this is preview to my SEC championship game preview. Texas plays Arch Manning. They're winning this game on Saturday.
Oh yeah.
I don't see how an Arch Manning led Texas offense is stopped by Georgia. So it doesn't matter, and the Big Ten championship game doesn't matter. Both those teams are in. The ones that matter is the ACC and the Big 12.
Well, here's what I know.
In the Mountain West,
is Miami in? That's going to be a great question. Miami has a 59th ranked strength of schedule. Their opponent win percentage is .446, which is one of the worst ones in terms of your top 12 teams, top 13 teams, and they have no top 25 wins. Is Miami in?
No, because they put Alabama at 13. So there's your answer.
We got to see what happens tomorrow night, obviously, but yeah.
No, they were 13 in the playoff poll last week.
Oh, last week. I'm sorry. Yeah.
They dropped in 3 spots. They were the committee placed Alabama at 13, hoping somebody would lose, and they got their wish.
They dropped 6 spots in the rankings last week. Clemson's in front of them. Boise State's in front of them. Ole Miss is behind them. And South Carolina's behind them at 2 spots. And Arizona State's at 16.
So is Indiana in? Indiana's opponent's win percentage is .447, 51st ranked strength schedule, and no top 25 wins. Why are they in the playoff? Because they've got the best. Because who have they played?
Ohio State.
And they lost.
Hey,
And they kind of got manhandled.
They beat Purdue 66-0.
Purdue needs to
Okay.
quit the football program.
Purdue has won one game this year.
Purdue program needs to be put into the depths of hell after losing Jeff Brom because there's no coming back from anything they're doing.
Purdue also played the hardest schedule in the Big Ten. I'll give them that.
Okay, here's another one. Alabama has an opponent winning percentage of 610, the 11th best hardest schedule in the country, and they've got 3 top 25 wins. There's only 3 teams with 3 top 25 wins. Oregon, they're in regardless, right? Undefeated. Alabama and Georgia.
Alabama's
going to be in the college football playoff, and they're going to be like the 11th seed.
They shouldn't be because they're not good, but they're going to be.
God, Ralph, I remember we sat here literally 365 days ago and talked with Will after the Auburn-Alabama game, and it says it's like a carbon copy. It's like the same thing. They're not good, and it's frustrating.
They're not. Watch them play. They're not good.
They're just.
I'm not saying a word.
They just get bailed out because teams don't want to play good defense.
Because teams are scared of their logo. They're scared of a crimson helmet. That's what it is.
I like this. And I don't know if he's trolling or not. Nick says Georgia ain't good. How are they in? Ole Miss whumped them. Well, then why do we have a 12-team playoff? Like that. There's my question.
We shouldn't have a 12-team playoff.
Just play pool play.
Bring back the PCS.
Teams. Everyone plays. There's 15 pools. The best teams of the pools come out. Then we do a tournament.
I don't know if we have enough water for that, Ralph.
There's an ocean somewhere over there.
We shouldn't have a 12-team playoff, and this is why. It makes now. I'm gonna tell you one thing. On December 21st, I'm gonna be sitting down watching the games. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, I like this. Whoever was the coaches poll wins it all. There we go. Coaches poll is what matters the most.
Dude, coaches don't even fill out the coaches poll.
Yeah, it's just they just do it's like multiple choice. They just kind of pick and choose.
George P. Purdell brings up a great point. We'll end it with this one. He goes, "It's a year-long season. How do you guys gauge that? Like, do you feel like we're talking too much about what we've seen recently in like the months of November and late October? We're not taking in the full body of work. I sit in the camp of teams that are allowed to. You can't ignore what happens in September, but teams are allowed to evolve. Like Notre Dame's a perfect example.
I was about to say Notre Dame.
Notre Dame's I've got Notre Dame in my playoffs safely.
Great win at A&M. Obviously, the loss to Northern Illinois, ugly. Wins against Navy, Army, Georgia Tech, and then the rest of the season they beat Louisville. They played great football all year long, and they stomped Army. And I hate to say it because I was really pulling for Army in that game. Army got throttled.
They did. This is great. Great one to end on right here. Goldfill X says, everyone is entered into a name picker. They get entries equal to the number of wins they have. The picker randomly decides the champion. Yeah.
That's better than our playoff committee.
I bet so. I can't wait to watch it. We'll be live tomorrow night talking about this. We'll have call-in show plus college ball playoff reaction, so make sure you lock it in. Nick says, if you generally want a solution, you need a conference realignment. It's impossible to gauge the quality of someone's schedule. Agreed. Conference realignment destroyed everything that we have tried to know in college football. So it's really hurt. I agree with you, Nick. All right. Appreciate everyone watching. Ralph Leary, Will Manis, my name is Bryce Koon. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And make sure to hang out with us tomorrow night here on the YouTube channel and all the social media platforms. We'll see you next time.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The crowded booth is coming on. The crowded booth.